Your Creative Force by Avianne is currently available on Global Voice Radio.
Talent is a flame. Genius is a fire. Broadcasting from the San Francisco Bay Area, the all-new all-hit show on creativity. Hosted by international award-winning artist and entrepreneur, Avianne. You're listening to Your Creative Force. And now here's your host, Avianne.
Hi, this is Avianne coming to you once again from the lovely San Francisco Bay Area in California, the USA. And wow, do I have a great show for you guys today. I think you're going to learn a lot, and I think you're going to find this very encouraging, very inspiring, and full of helpful tips and ways for you to make your business experience far more enjoyable and tapping into your creative force to bring out your own treasures. Before we jump into this with both feet, I'm going to give you a few quick ways to connect with me. The first way is through email. You could email me at coachavianne@gmail.com, coachavianne@gmail.com, or you could also connect with me through one of my websites, which is artbyavianne.com, artbyavianne.com, or you can connect with me through my other website, which is takeartclasses.com. If you Google me, you will find me. I am all over the place. I operate everywhere. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook is a good way to find me. And if you type any of the above into your search engine, you should be able to find me. Your Creative Force by Avianne is a page that I have on Facebook, so you should be able to find me that way. That all being said, today's theme, Episode 10, is great, good, bad, and ugly. Before I go more into that, I want to just quickly say something to you guys. I feel like a lot of people, I come across this a lot in business. I come across this a lot in circles that I work in, circles that I find myself connecting with in business, where people do one of two things. They either have a glass empty or a glass half empty or a glass half full approach, right? And so they would either ignore the bad and the ugly, or they would ignore the great and the good. They are negative. They don't really think they're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe they feel discouraged. And so they only tend to focus on the bad and the ugly, which is not a good place to be in mentally, and which is not what we want. And that is not what I am talking about today. I do not want you to be in a bad and ugly place, right? Not inside our mindset. We don't need a bad and ugly mindset. So that's not what I'm talking about. But then on the other hand, you come across people, business owners, entrepreneurs, who are so focused on the good and the great that they do not seem to realize when bad and ugly things creep up on them or enter their business. And because you cannot always control the bad and the ugly that happen, to deny them, that's not really very smart either, because they can creep up on you and they can really cause harm to you in your business if you don't deal with them. So the point is, you do not want to be in a place where you only see the bad and ugly and you're so negative and your mindset is so bad, because who wants to work with that, right? You're not going to have clients wanting to work with people who are just focused on everything that can go wrong all the time. That's very negative. People aren't drawn to that. But then on the other hand, you don't want to focus so much on the great and the good stuff in your business that you let problems fester and you let them kind of have babies and become much worse because you're not dealing with things and you're in denial, right? So I want you to know that when we say great, good, bad, and ugly, what I am saying is I want you to have a really realistic, objective, and powerful approach to dealing with things in your business, to enjoy your victories, to enjoy the great and the good, and to deal with the bad and the ugly when they pop up. If you deal with them, they're never going to become tremendous, long-term balls and chains on your feet. They're never going to drag you down into the depths of despair if you deal with them decisively and quickly. So that's the whole point. There are incredible advantages, perks and freedoms that come with running your own business. However, I observe way too many people going into business with rose-tinted lenses, and that is the danger right there. We think everything will go well if we just work hard, and everyone will like us if we just provide excellent services and products. But if you have done this for a while, you will know that such a picture is only a half-truth. We will come across obstacles and difficulties like we do with everything else in life, and we will need to address this head-on if we want our journey to be optimal and as drama-free as possible. So in this episode, I want my listeners to really be empowered with some truly effective strategies and encouragement in dealing with obstacles while enjoying the journey of entrepreneurship. If we want to grow and thrive, we cannot ignore unpleasant truths, and we need to learn to embrace the great and the good while confidently in our stride, handling the bad and the ugly right alongside it. That's a mouthful. So basically, in essence, what I want this episode to leave you with is a way to cope with the bad and the ugly, to deal with them, to get that out of the way so that you can truly focus on the great and the good, right? That is a wonderful place to be in. You're being realistic, you're dealing with the bad stuff, but you are totally positive, totally have high energy on your business, and the great and the good, those are the things that are shining through. So in part 1 today, we are going to start by identifying what is great and good about your industry. That is something that is important. You need to know what is great and good about your industry because you want to know the positives, right? The great, the good, the bad, and the ugly will always go with us on our journey in business. When we do business, we automatically inherit an industry, or several even, directly or indirectly into our business. An industry or industries that have existed for some time. Along with that industry or industries we are entering, we inherit everything that typically comes with it, and denial doesn't serve us well in it. Okay, so in part 1, as we're identifying what is great and good about our industry, we're also going to move on in part 2 and look at what is the bad and the ugly. We're first going to look at what is great and good about our industry, about our business, about what we are doing, what is great and good, right? We need that motivation. So entering any industry or business venture is kind of like buying an old house. The house may have great, beautiful features and truly good solid bones. But any old house will also have quirks, issues, work that needs to be done, problems that may need attention. And if we do not pay attention to the entire situation, we will be caught off guard by unforeseen leaks, plumbing disasters, appliances breaking down when we can least afford them to, expensive projects like replacing a roof, etc. If you have ever bought an old house, you will know that there is always something to deal with, and if you neglect it, the problem doesn't magically disappear, but gets worse with time, which may end up costing you even more. But I have great news for you. Just like with buying an old house, inheriting the industries or issues that feed into your business or that are supposed to actually support your business or that are supported by your business doesn't mean you are all alone and will be blindsided endlessly. Okay? I'm going to say that again for clarity. Just like with buying an old house, inheriting the industries or issues that feed into your business or that are supported by your business or supposed to be supported by your business, it doesn't mean that you are all alone and will be blindsided endlessly. There are insurance policies and checks and balances in place. There are legal safeguards and preventative measures to protect you. And we are going to take a look at some of those also. So here's the main point I want to make there. You do not have to fear the bad and the ugly. The bad and the ugly will come to you at some point. You can't avoid it, but you do not have to be afraid of it because there are ways that you can counteract it. There are ways that you can avoid it. And when you cannot avoid it, you can actually deal with it. You're not going to pretend that they don't come or that they're not there because then you're just going to make them worse. but you are going to have tools and strategies to deal with them. The main thing you just need to remember is that you need to be very careful of not wearing rose-colored lenses with regards to what is great and good, to the point of placing yourself in a vulnerable position to get blindsided when it comes to the bad and the ugly. See, if you just look at everything through rose-colored lenses and you're not willing to admit mistakes or issues in your business or in your practices or in your industry, and you're not willing to tackle those or solve problems when it comes to those, then you are in danger. Then you are going to find yourself endlessly blindsided by drama and issues popping up, right? So, what you want to do is you want to realize that this is a package deal, and if you can be sober and smart about it, you will significantly improve the joy of your journey and your ability to enjoy and scale your business successfully by embracing the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We are now going to take a look at some of the great and good things you can enjoy when you start off doing anything in any industry. You need to be aware of this because these are the things that will fuel your passion and will provide you with the tools, the skills, the determination, the tenacity to overcome things. These are the things that will prevent you from giving up when you feel overwhelmed or hit an obstacle. Okay? And these are where I get this from. I don't get this from anywhere but from my own experience in my business, my own journey, my current and my past business journey. It's a 20-year journey for me on and off. And in the last 2 years, more on than off, building my own businesses. And so this is where I get this from. And I can write a whole entire book just on this topic. So I'm going to stick to 5 great things that I want you to know about. And these things you need to keep in front of you as much as you can, because like I said, these things are the things that will fuel your passion and will prevent you from giving up when you feel overwhelmed or hit a wall or hit an obstacle, right? So the 5 great things. Your passion, aligned with your core values and paired with healthy boundaries, integrity and authenticity, those are the greatest aspects of yourself that you bring to your industry. So I want you to go listen to episode 3, episode 4, and episode 8 in my series, Your Creative Force Again, because in those episodes, okay, I give you a little more in-depth information about what these mean. Healthy boundaries, integrity, authenticity. I go a bit deeper into those things in episode 3, episode 4, and episode 8. So if you need a refresher of these, go listen to those episodes again. Your passion aligned with your core values and paired with healthy boundaries, integrity, and authenticity. Those are the greatest aspects of yourself that you bring to your industry, and those are your treasures. Those are the things that come from deep within your creative force. Those are the things, the character that carries you forward. Your industry, this is the second point I want to make. Your industry comes with a history of having already solved many problems for clients in the past. Each inventor, each entrepreneur, genius, creator, scientist, expert, and trailblazer who came before you in your industry and added value, they have already provided you with a great platform to start off with. You are standing on the shoulders of many great ones who came before you. Someone I draw tremendous inspiration from is Leonardo da Vinci, who was a scientist, an inventor, an artist, a writer. He did so many incredible things and he brought so much value, so many formal art instruction and art methods to the art industry that I feel secure. When I use these methods or when I stand on the shoulders of someone who is that great, I feel secure. That is great about my industry. My industry, the art industry, goes back thousands and thousands of years. It is as old as the history of humanity itself, and I draw so much inspiration from art history and from all these wonderful artists that came before me in history, right? And in every industry that is the same. If you're in high tech, you can draw inspiration from Steve Jobs, Nikola Tesla, the Industrial Revolution, all the wonderful things that people have invented. So this goes for any industry. Now, in the third sense, the third great thing that I want to point out is that you are in a great position to create a fresh start on a blank canvas. You can do things differently. You can solve more problems and create more innovative solutions in your own unique way. You can bring your own unique voice to the table and add value to your industry by pulling from your creative force, right? So that is amazing. You can actually start something fresh, something new. The possibilities are amazing if you think about it. Then, in the fourth sense, you have resources and mentors available to you on a global scale. Think about it. Something that previous generations did not have access to is the internet and this vastly expanding, endless array of technological solutions. You have the internet and technology to open up a magnitude of resources to you that those who came before you had to do without. Your possibilities are far greater and your odds far better as a result of this. You can do things faster and more efficiently than your heroes did. Just think about that for a little bit. And my fifth and last point on this matter, because of how interconnected the world is now, you can find your tribe and your mentors, your best possible matches for outsourcing and assistance with the click of a button, and this truly frees up time for you. You become free. You have a luxury that we also enjoy thanks to technology. You truly have everything and everyone at your fingertips. Those are the great things that you bring to the table, the great things that you have going for you that support you, right? Then there are 5 good things that I would like to point out. 5 good things. 1, you can start any business from home to keep overheads down in the beginning. It is so easy and so cheap in most places to start a business that you can do it from home. You do not need massive overheads or a huge budget to do it. Then in the second sense, you will likely enjoy having tax benefits, depending on where you live. Many local and national governments like to encourage industry by providing tax perks for businesses. There are many ways that you can engage this. I would advise you to get a tax expert if you start a business to really know what you're doing and make sure that you absolutely follow the law. Never get in trouble with your taxes. Never try and do anything weird with your taxes. That is my absolute best advice to you when it comes to this. But yes, there are benefits to having a business. In most countries, you will enjoy some tax write-offs or some tax benefits. Then, thirdly, being a rookie or having little money doesn't have to stop you. In most places, starting a business is not very expensive and you can learn as you grow from others. Many countries provide resources for business owners like local business organizations or educational platforms where you can learn things you may not know. Okay, I want to use a quick example here. When I started my first business in the USA, that was in 2010. I started my first business in the USA. There were a lot of things that I didn't know about starting a business in the USA. I wasn't sure about which licenses I should get, whose permission I needed, what I needed to do in terms of taxes, some standard operating procedures in the States. I knew they were different than where I was from. So I just had to relearn a few things. I need to learn some terminology. I needed to find a good tax guy and I needed some advice. So I quickly discovered that my local government, which at the time was the city of Pleasanton, offered this amazing program where you could it was actually through the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce, I believe, if I recall correctly, where they offered this amazing program where businessmen who were retired, successful businessmen who sold their businesses or who were retired, were offering free advice. You could book a session with one of these guys and they would offer you free advice and you can go and see them and you can speak to them for an hour and you can ask them questions and they can point you to the right resources, and that was very valuable. I would really advise you to look into your local resources because most governments, most communities, most business people support that within their communities because it is so valuable, because it brings tourism, it brings other things to the community that a city really needs for the city to thrive. So when you start a business, when you're part of the entrepreneurial community in your local area, you are a valuable part of that community and what makes that community function. You're probably providing jobs, you're probably providing valuable resources within your own community. So they want to support you, they want to reach out to you, they want to provide you with resources. So remember that. Fourthly, you can partner with others and share your strengths. You do not have to be an island unto yourself. This is very important for you to remember. Because if you try and do everything yourself, if you try and be an expert in everything yourself, you're going to run into some problems. But this is a good thing. You can partner with others. That is part of why you do want to network. And even in your local area or online, depending on the type of business that you're doing, you do want to partner with others who have different strengths than you. And no, you never know. You may even be able to expand your own business that way. Then, fifthly, your business can serve you. There are freedoms that come with having your own business. Remember this. You can determine your hours, your schedule, and your scaling. You are no longer tethered to the schedule and demands of a third party. You get to have a lot of say over what you do and how you do it and when you do it. Right? That is some flexibility there that you're not going to have in a normal job. So that goes for everything that is great and everything that is good. And these are wonderful things. I stick to 5 great things and 5 good things. If you really sit down and you really make a list and you really think about it, you can probably think of many, many more good and great things that make it wonderful to do business. This concludes part 1 of our show, and in part 2, we will take a closer look at what is the bad and the ugly that you will need to deal with when you are conducting business or starting your entrepreneurial journey.
The broadcast that sets you on a path of inspiration and fire. You're listening to Your Creative Force. And now we return to our show with Avianne.
And we are back with part 2 of our show today. In part 2, we are going to identify what is bad and ugly. Remember, we are at episode 10 right now, and our theme is the great, good, bad, and ugly. That is what we are talking about today. The great and the good also come with the bad and the ugly. I am not telling you about the bad and the ugly to scare or discourage you. It is very important that you realize that. But rather to provide you with a realistic picture and how you can combat your enemies, which are things like fear, disillusionment, pride, doubt, and overwhelm. Something about enemies. I quickly want to mention this. People often think in business as enemies being their competition or their haters. And I want to tell you, those are not the enemies you really need to worry about most of all. Your most dangerous enemies are the enemies within. The enemies that are things like fear, disillusionment, pride, doubt, and overwhelm. Things like that can really harm your business far more undetected than overt enemies like competitors who are aggressive or haters that just want to trash your business online. Those are things you need to deal with, sure. But your biggest enemies are those things that creep up on you. Things like fear, disillusionment, pride, doubt, and overwhelm. The things that will actually cause you to lose your courage and lose your fire. Those are things that are dangerous. If you know the dangers along the journey, then you will not easily succumb to them or be surprised by them. You will learn to develop strategies for them, and you will be able to navigate any operational or functional difficulties in your business or industry with greater success. Doesn't that sound like a winning mindset? Doesn't that sound like that is far better than just trying to avoid or ignore a problem? I think so. I really do. So, In that sense, let's look at 5 bad things. Like I've said before, there could be many more. I'm just going to stick to 5 bad things. And these are things I have lived through. I live through them from time to time. These are things that apply across the board to all of us, no matter what you do for a living. If you are a driven individual who is hungry for success, you can become extremely hard on yourself and you can drive yourself mad. This is how people end up with burnout. So number 1, this is a bad thing. We think being driven is good, and in essence it is. But if you drive yourself to the point of driving yourself mad, driving yourself into a ditch, emotionally or mentally speaking, that is not a good thing. You need to really watch out for yourself in this regard. You can take it too far. You can push yourself so hard that you develop health issues as a result. Remember that. People will try, and this is point 2, people will try to take advantage of you, especially if you are a rookie or very young. They mostly won't mean to do so, but people will bombard you with requests, phone calls, or meetings, and they may try to get as much bang for their buck out of you as they can, without considering the fact that they are not the be-all and end-all of your business. Especially if you deal with clients who are not entrepreneurial themselves, they will not understand the concept that you serve many, not just them, and they will end up wasting a lot of your time. This is very common. You have to understand that from the client's perspective, they are one person and you are one person. And as far as they are concerned, they are dealing with you one-on-one. They are not calculating in their minds the fact that you have many other clients to work with and that your time and your resources are very valuable and have to be distributed according to what the client actually paid for. There are people who will command and demand your time endlessly, and you will be stuck at work on weekends doing ridiculous things that clients never paid you for, because that's what happens. People don't mean this bad. It's not a malicious thing on the behalf of a client. It's just a matter of people not realizing the boundaries. That is once again why you want to go listen to episode 4 again, where we spoke about boundaries with integrity. It is very important, because if you don't put those boundaries down, people are going to walk all over you and they're going to end up wasting a lot of your time. You will have, and this is as per our third point, you will have more expenses and more pressure to perform on you as you scale. You will often find yourself in the uncomfortable spot of not knowing if you should do things yourself or scale higher and outsource instead. The more you grow, the more your overheads will increase. This is a point of tension for many businesses. Do I scale? Do I grow? This will mean more stress. This will mean more payroll work. This will mean more issues for me to deal with employees, but this will also mean more revenue. So you really have to be aware of the fact that the expenses and the pressure increase as your business grow. Then fourthly, you will see your family and friends less, and you will have to learn to say no to many things. The people you start saying no to will not always understand it. That practically speaks for itself. You have to understand that you are not going to be able to make everyone happy. People are going to start questioning your actions. People are going to say weird things to you and question you on many fronts. They're not going to always understand. They're not going to be able to always even accept the fact that you are telling them no. But you're going to have to. It is just how it works. It is not a bad thing for your business, but it may be a bad thing for your social life and your family and friend circle. But you have to realize that comes with the package. If you want to build a successful business, you're going to work weird hours. You're going to have to deal with these things. Social life. Sometimes I joke with people. I'm like, what social life? My social life is talking to my clients. So yes, that is very much a reality. And for some people, if you are someone who loves partying, who loves socializing, this can feel like a very bad thing to you. Suddenly you have to say no. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to fit everything you want to do into all the hours of the day, right? Then, fifthly, your comfort zones will constantly be challenged and your weaknesses will constantly be triggered. You will be painfully aware of your shortcomings and you will feel yourself being stretched to think and do things that will require adjustments and decisive actions from you. You have to understand that. You can't always stay in your cocoon. You cannot always stay in the place where things are just comfortable and come to you easy. If that's what you want to do, then my advice to you would be do not start a business. Because if you just want everything to be happy-go-lucky, comfortable, you want to hang out at the beach every weekend, you want to chill with your friends with a beer every evening, don't start a business because that's not going to be your reality. Okay, so those are 5 things that can feel like bad things sometimes. Then we have 5 things that I call the real ugly, the dirty stuff, right? Things that are downright awful and painful. To do this part of the show is almost hard for me to do with you guys because I have faced these things. I know what they feel like and they're really hard. But I want to come alongside you and I want to tell you if you have already experienced these 5 things or if you are experiencing them right now or will experience them in future, I want you to know I did, I am, and I probably will again. And I got through it. And if I could do it, you could do it. So there's great encouragement for you in these. So though this is hard for me, to be honest with you guys, to be helpful, to give you good strategy, to give it to you straight, like you know I will and want to, I am just simply going to go through these 5 things with you. Number 1, you will face haters at some point, especially if you become successful and start standing out from the crowd. You may be ridiculed, doubted, and targeted even by people who are either jealous of you or who just feel threatened by what you do. Even people who know you may turn against you in bizarre ways. You will experience this as painful, and you will be unable to find a rational explanation for it. I'll give you a very interesting example. I was about 2.5 years into my journey as a local artist in a certain community when I, out of the blue, received a very amazing opportunity. The opportunity involved having my work featured on HGTV in a reality TV show. That was a really unique opportunity, not the kind of opportunity that I was going after or seeking out. But I was contacted by HGTV producers and they wanted me to do that. It was Food Network and HGTV. Their producers was contacting me and they were contacting me and they wanted to do a Food Network show that was also featured on HGTV where they actually wanted me to participate in this reality show. Now, as I was approached by them, I didn't really tell a lot of people about it because, first of all, in the beginning, to be honest with you, I didn't really think it was serious. I thought it was a joke. I didn't think they were serious. I didn't think it was going to become a reality. So I didn't really tell a lot of people. But then as I went through the process, I was one of hundreds of artists that they were considering for this. And I was going to end up being one of only 3 for the specific episode that I wanted to feature me in. And so it was quite a grueling process, and I went through a lot of elimination rounds where they pick finalists and semi-finalists and so forth. And so when it became clear to me that I was actually going to be one of the 3 artists in this show, I mentioned it to a few people. I was really excited. It was really cool. It was really scary too, because suddenly I had to be on television. I've never really had a lot of experience being on television before. And you know what? There were 2 reactions that I got. One reaction was like my good and amazing friend Bill, who was totally in this journey with me, who helped me, who embraced me, who even helped me to shoot some of the videos that I needed to shoot to prove to them that I could speak on television. He was so supportive. He was so amazing about the whole thing, right? That was great. One experience, everyone being encouraging, everyone being wonderful about it. But I also had the other end of the spectrum. There were artists who have known me for at least 2 to 3 years at that point, who basically pretended that they didn't know me anymore in public. They didn't want to do shows with me. They said mean things to me. They even flat out just ignored me and pretended that I wasn't even in the room, even though I was standing right there in front of them. They basically ignored me as if I didn't exist. And my artist community, my local artist community turning against me like that was very painful. And it was completely irrational. I didn't ask for this opportunity. It came my way and I accepted it. If you wanted an opportunity like that, you could have gone after it. And if you didn't get picked, it's not my fault. I got picked because of very specific kinds of things that I was doing at that point in my life in the art industry. It had nothing to do with another artist. And being someone who always claps for other artists when they get amazing opportunities, I really felt hurt by this. This was really painful for me. Now and then I may not agree with something in the art industry, but even if I personally don't like what's going on, or if I personally feel like someone got an opportunity in a very unjust way, even if there's reason for me to not like the person or not like the situation, I try not to show it, I mean, at least, good grief, at least try and seem happy. At least if you can't say something nice, then at least don't say mean things. At least don't full on ignore the person and treat them terribly, right? But wow, that was really hard on me. So I just wanted to use that as an example. These things happen and they can be extremely painful. Then, secondly, you will sometimes make a bad investment, hire the wrong person, or even fall flat on your face with an idea or a pursuit that just didn't work out, right? You will think you are a failure when these things happen. You will likely lose money because of this. You have to understand that entering into any kind of business, entrepreneurship of any kind, to one degree or another, it is a risk. It will always be a risk. Any job is a risk. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you don't have your own business, if you work for a business, you can lose your job. The business can close down. Everything is a risk, right? Life is full of risks. And you cannot avoid the risks by being afraid. If you never venture out, if you never try something new, if you never try a new marketing strategy, you will never make any progress. But if you try new things and they totally fall flat, they totally are just a dud, they're like a dead duck in the water for you, they're not doing anything for your business, and they're actually bleeding you dry of money, and they're actually costing you more frustration than they're helping you, you just have to realize that that is part of the journey. That is not the end. It doesn't mean that it is the end of you. We're going to look into some solutions for all these bad and ugly things later. So yes, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Just bear with me, okay? But you have to accept the fact that there are risks involved and that those risks will sometimes mean that financially or occupationally, you're going to make very bad choices. You're human and you have to understand that. Thirdly, when we're talking about the ugly, right? The painful stuff. You will have to deal with people who work for you who may hate each other's guts or play politics or negatively affect your company culture. You will often not even see this coming until it gets really bad. It is really weird how this works. It has happened to me before. Once in my business before, there were people that I contracted to do a certain task for me, and I had no idea that the two guys I contracted absolutely couldn't stand each other. I had no idea that that was what was going on. And they were almost getting involved in fist fights with each other over things I employed both of them to do. And it was like, hey guys, wow, chill, really. And it was very hard for me to deal with this because I like both of these guys. I liked doing business with them. And to this very day, I actually still do business with one of these guys. But I was like really blindsided by this. I didn't know that this was going to be so bad. And you're going to come across it. People who are contracted by you who then don't get along with each other and they create painful situations for you. Now you suddenly have to pick and choose. So what do, right? So that's the third thing. You're going to have to deal with people who work for you who may not like each other and who may be actually really hating each other and bring negativity into your business. Fourthly, sometimes you will not be able to please a client no matter what you do. Some people are just so negative, so bitter, so angry at the world that they are absolutely impossible to please. They will project their own fears and failures onto you. This requires some wisdom and discernment, but you can tell this pretty fast. You will see the signs of this. A client, everything you show them isn't good enough. No matter how hard you try, no matter how many hours you put in late at night, nothing you show this client is ever good enough. They're super picky and they are nitpicking things that really make no difference to the overall outcome of the project. And when you face clients like that, you are really sitting with your hand in your hair. You want to pull your hair out. I've had that happen to me before, where nothing you do works. You can do anything you want and nothing is good enough. And we are going to look in part 3 of our show today how to deal with that, because that is painful. That causes so much frustration in any business, okay? Then, lastly, when we're talking about these ugly things that we have to talk about. Sorry, guys, but this is all to help you. So, this is probably one of the most difficult ones to deal with and the most unforeseen one when it comes to business. You will face what I call suddenlies. Suddenlies can throw your entire game off track. You can get sick or lose a loved one, or suddenly find your spouse out of a job, or your rent can get jacked up to an astronomical amount. Those are just a few examples of things that are suddenlies. Things that suddenly, what I mean by a suddenly is these are things that happen to you out of the blue. You didn't see it coming. You didn't know that this was going to hit your life or your business. And these are not always things that hit your business. These can be things that hit your personal life. If you suddenly have a sickness or a death in the family that you couldn't foresee and you are suddenly needed to deal with these things, it can really place a massive burden on your business. There will be nothing you can do to prevent these things. They are lemons that life just throws at you, and they have nothing to do with your choices and cannot be controlled by you at all. So when these happen, the first thing you need to do, and we'll look at the solutions to these things and how to deal with these things later, but one of the things you need to do is just accept right off the bat the fact that you cannot control it. Suddenlies are things that come your way that you cannot prevent and that you cannot control, and they can be very, very painful. So, yes, we are finally through our summary of what is good, great, bad, and ugly, right? We finally got through all that. So now I think the next part would be to look at how to address the bad and the ugly. The good stuff, those things are easy, right? We just go with them, we build on them, we just thrive on them, we just focus on them. They will drive us, they will make us successful. We can just totally roll with it. But how do we really address the bad and the ugly? And in part 3 of our show today, that is exactly what we're going to be looking at.
Talent is a flame. Genius is a fire. And now we return to our show with your host, Avianne.
In the final part of today's show, on the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, right? In today's show, the final part, we're going to look at how to actually address the bad and the ugly. First, let's start with the bad. Now, I've got 5 things here for you on the bad and 5 on the ugly. So you need to listen to part 3 and part 2 together because they kind of go hand in hand. So we're going to look at the bad first and how to address this. It's important to find solutions for dealing, mechanisms for coping with dealing and sorting out and handling the bad and the ugly. We can't just know about them and know that they're there and then kind of ignore them like they're packed away somewhere in a dark corner of our minds, right? We actually need to tackle them head on. So this is how we're going to do this. So, firstly, dealing with the bad. When you become overwhelmed, you need to take breaks. You need to learn to rest. Take a stroll, go eat something, now and then go away for the weekend and take your mind off everything. If possible, take a vacation. Even if you just stay home and do nothing, learn to have mercy on yourself, or your business will suck out your energy and will steal your joy. The thing that you love the most to do will end up being the thing you hate to do if you push yourself so hard to your limits and that you go so over your limits all the time that you reach a point of burnout and exhaustion. Those are not good things. You don't want to get to that place where you start developing health problems, even mental health problems, because you never rested. You have to rest. You have to take it easy at times. Remember that. Then, secondly, once again, like I stated in episode 4, when people try to take advantage of you, wasting your time, not honoring your processes or parameters, you need to set down healthy boundaries with integrity. Please go listen to episode 4 to recap on all of that. Thirdly, a solid business plan, budget, and financial advice from experts who truly understand your situation will go a long way to enable you to make good, solid calls about how and when to scale or take on new expenses. I'll give you a quick example. Right now, there's a very specific expense I want to take on in my business. It involves me getting coaching for a very specific aspect of my business that I'm just having real difficulty having a breakthrough in. I feel like I lack knowledge. I feel like some coaching will do me good. And I want to do that expense. I want to make that expense, get a great coach, get them in there and get this nonsense sorted out. That's what I want to do. So what I did today was I really looked at the numbers, because the other thing I don't want to do is I do not want to get their help. And then because I'm getting their help, I am now creating serious cash flow issues for myself. I don't want to go into debt. They aren't cheap. They're very good at what they do, so they're not cheap. So I have to really budget them in. I have to really have a plan so that I can afford them. I can't just hire them because I feel like it needs to make sense within my financial structure of my business. So what I'm doing right now is I am developing a strategy and doing it in such a way so that I can put on the money and say to these people, I want you to come in and help me fix this. And I don't have to think about the money. I don't have to worry about going into debt. I don't have to take on a business expense that is right now going to make life really tough for me. Can you see how that works? So you really need to do this so that you can actually make good, solid calls about how and when to scale or take on new expenses, right? Then, fourthly, if you have to start saying no to people in your life, you have to explain it as best as you can to your friends and family, but you don't keep on explaining. See, if you develop this thing where every time you go to a family gathering, everyone just piles onto you about why are you not here anymore? Why don't we see you anymore? Why are you always late? Or why didn't you attend so-and-so's birthday party? And people just start piling on to you and you constantly have to explain yourself. That's no good, right? And you know what? I'm here to tell you that you don't owe anyone an explanation, and you can say so. You don't have to be afraid of saying your truth. I already explained this to you guys. I'm not going to explain the same thing over and over. You know I'm starting a business. You know that my entrepreneurial journey is causing me a lot of weird hours, and that is just how my life is right now. It won't stay that way forever, probably not, but you need to please just be respectful and be supportive of me, because I really need your support. You don't have to constantly justify yourself to people. You simply will not be able to attend all the dinners and all the birthday parties, and to please friends and family cannot be a major driving force to your business. Just like you cannot make financial choices based upon emotion, you cannot make choices and decisions about pleasing people, and you cannot make those choices and decisions the reason why you do things in your business. Okay? You can't do that, because then what's going to happen is your business is going to become like being on an emotional roller coaster, and you're going to try and be all things to all people in your family, and it's going to be just as frustrating as trying to please a client that is impossible to please. It's a no-win situation for you. You're going to just be stressed out of your mind. So you need to find a way to make it very clear to your family and your friends that your schedule is different, and that you really need them to support you in this. And the best way to bring them on board is to just be straightforward with them, but you don't have to over-explain. If this is causing you a situation in your family where you feel you need help to delve into it, to figure out how you're going to make your business work with your family, get counseling, get help if you must, but you need to address this. Okay? You cannot just let it fester, or it's going to drive you mad. Then, lastly, addressing the bad. Number 5, whenever you find yourself stretched or triggered, take time to think it over. Do not react to this in the heat of the moment. Whenever you find your weaknesses triggered, your comfort zone stretched, and you're experiencing stress and frustration and even maybe some anxiety, the last thing you want to do is to make rash decisions based upon your discomfort or triggers alone. You need more data before you make drastic business choices, and you need to make rational and logical decisions when it comes to these things. So what you're going to want to do is buy yourself some time. If you need to, tell people, I need time. I need to figure this out. Step out of the situation and do not allow yourself to get sucked into it. Then we are going to look at the ugly. This is what we are going to discuss next, as far as we are now creating strategies, right, to address the bad and the ugly. So when it comes to the ugly, you need to firstly distinguish as clearly as possible between haters and those who are providing you with constructive criticism. Haters are toxic, and you want to avoid those. But critics can be valuable. You need to pay haters as little attention as possible. If they go too far and they do or say things to slander you or threaten you, you may want to get legal advice and protect your reputation and your family. Remember, we're talking about painful things here. Most of them, these are the haters, however, are cowards, and they envy you or your reputation and your family. So most of them, you just have to kind of ignore them, okay? You don't have to deal with them. Like I say, unless they threaten you and you feel you need legal advice or protection, then by all means get that. But most of the time, haters are just jealous, bitter, angry people who don't like themselves and don't like the rest of the world, and it's best to just ignore them and avoid them as far as you can. Then, Find critics who will help you get perspective on things you need to address in a constructive, productive way. Ignore the rest unless they go too far. Get help to deal with the pain if you struggle emotionally. Sometimes haters can affect us emotionally and we may want to get some counseling. But there are wonderful ways in which people can give you constructive criticism that will help you overcome difficulties in your business instead of just pulling you down into a gutter of despair, right? That's not what we want. So, secondly, if you make any kind of mistake that costs you money, don't beat yourself up over it. Learn from it and move on. Cut your losses. Don't spend more money on things that are a dead end for you. Do not be afraid to fire someone if they have done something that causes you to want to do that. If you need to fire someone, do it. Just do it as long as you have just cause, and just get legal advice to make sure you do it safely and legally in a way that will not backfire on you, right? You want to make sure you're not firing them over some silly thing or wrongfully. You want to make sure you do this the right way. When your team starts making life unbearable in a business, sort it out. Play diplomat. If you have an HR resource, deploy it. If not, sort it out as quickly and straightforwardly as possible. If you can get to the root of the issue, deal with it. Do not allow yourself or your employees to become hostages of bad apples. Once again, get rid of it. Fire people if you must. Get rid of this behavior. Just get legal advice to cover your blind spots. If you discover, this is number 4, that you are doing work for a client that is impossible to please, don't take work from that client again, no matter how appealing. My experience is, and this is something you need to listen to, guys, that people who just have an inherent problem with the world, right? There are people who just have a problem with the world, they won't change. And all you can do with those people are you need to fire those clients. Okay? Firing clients is not a bad thing. Get legal advice if you feel you have to. But some people are not going to change. Okay? Just like in number 3, when your team starts making life unbearable in the business. In number 4, if your client is making your life unbearable in the business, same outcome. You need to get those people out of your business, okay? Sometimes with a team member, you can resolve the issue, but with a client that you can never ever please, usually the best route to go is just to cut your losses and move on, okay? Number 5, those suddenlies. Those suddenlies are awful at times. You have to get support, emotional and practical support. Hire temps if you can to take over some of the workload, postpone deadlines if possible, renegotiate the scope of a contract if you can, or scale back operations if possible for a time. Pay attention to those suddenlies and find a healthy way to deal with them. Seek medical, psychological, or other forms of help if you need to. You cannot ignore the suddenlies. You have to deal with them. Okay? You have to find a way to address them and to free up your time so that you can take the time you need to face them, to overcome them. Remember to celebrate your victories and tackle your problems. In conclusion, remember that you have victories and problems and you need to celebrate your victories and tackle your problems. This is a journey. Have mercy on yourself and get whatever help you need to succeed. Asking for help is liberating and can help you solve problems faster and more successfully. Remember why you started your business and never lose sight of your creative force within you. You already know the answers, and no hardship is permanent. Remember that. Then, in conclusion, thank you for being with me today. I am so happy that I could share all this with you guys. I think you're going to find great value in this show today. So, at the end of episode 10, our quote of the day is from Winston Churchill, and I'm going to love and leave you with this quote. If you are going through hell, keep going. Remember that no hardship is permanent. Have a wonderful rest of your day and of your week, and I will soon be back with episode 11 of Your Creative Force. This is Avianne saying bye to you from San Francisco.
Talent is a flame. Genius is a fire. Tune in next time as we explore your creative force. Thank you for listening.